It's match day 2 of the Clash Royale League 2020 spring season. Day 1 saw two massive upsets. The number 4 seed in both groups taking out the number 1 seed in both groups in the opening day of Clash Royale League action. Are we possibly in for more of the same today? Hello and welcome. I'm Rich Slayton. Joining me, as always, my friend Andrew Guy to talk you through the action here at CRL in 2020 for the Western region. It was a wild first day. No one could have predicted it, and we have more in store for you today. Thanks for joining us, especially those of you here on YouTube.
Yeah, that's the best place to find us every single time we have our matches go. You're asleep, that way you get notifications and you catch every single match. Next up, where are you going to follow us? On Twitter, Esports Royale EN. If you want to follow along in English, it's the best place to find all the up-to-date latest competitive Clash Royale news. And lastly, speaking of competitive Clash Royale, I don't know how your fantasy team did yesterday. Mine was a little hit and miss, but Fantasy Royale, you get to win 1,000 gems if you pick the 4 players who you think are going to have the most crowns throughout the entire season. You can change those rosters on Tuesday through Friday. We'll give you 24 hours to check up your lineups every single weekend before you get to decide who you want to trade and drop throughout the weeks. I'm pretty sure I'm going to trade someone this week, Rich. I'm not going to say who it is, but I think it's going to happen, man.
Might be for a lot of people, Andrew. Last I checked, there were about 20-something people who hit the maximum score yesterday. So
crazy.
No one really got it right except for a very small group. Speaking about getting it right, Group A, Team Liquid picked this group during that draft to open things up. Dignitas, Cream Royale Betis, Chivas Esports, and Tribe Gaming, the number 4 seed. As I said, Cream taking down Team Liquid yesterday. So who knows with the short season what kind of craziness could happen in each of these groups. And on the other side of things, it was SK Gaming making their picks. So Team Liquid with the first pick going Dignitas, SK Gaming with the second pick going Pain. And I went back and forth. And again on this side as well, SK Gaming yesterday falling to their number 4 seed, the All-American squad of Misfits, due to an amazing King of the Hill sweep by Wings. Rounding that group out, we'll see two in Spacestation Gaming and Team Queso.
Yeah, Wings did exactly what you expect out of him in King of the Hill, which is now our third and final set in weeks 1 through 5. It's a round-robin format, so that means in each group, the teams will play each other one time for a total of 4 matches. So it's going to be 2v2, 1 about it for season after season after season. We finally got it here for you guys. It's 2v2, then 2 1v1 sets, followed by a 1v1 if necessary, and then a King of the Hill to close things out.
And there will be 4 matches every single weekend, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, 10 in the West, 1 in the East, 7 in Central Europe. Yesterday it was Liquid and Cream Royale Betis, SK and Misfits. Today, though, we have the high-powered, anticipated roster of Tribe Gaming against Chivas Esports, who had a great run during No Tilt League Special Edition. And speaking of great runs, our second match today, the champions of that league, Team Queso, will go face-to-face with Spacestation Gaming in our last match of the weekend. Andrew, yesterday, as we said, was 2 pretty solid upsets through 2 teams that people thought might be potential sleepers, but were, of course, the number 4 seed in each region. Today, we have the closer matchup, the 2 and 3 seed from each region going head-to-head. Do you feel like we're in for more of the same today?
You know, it's interesting. Yesterday, we threw around the words a lot of unexpected, underdog, upset. I think the word of the day today is expectation. The expectation for these squads is through the roof. Every single one of them. And that adds a couple things. Confidence, but it also adds a lot of pressure. So I'm really curious to see what happens today. I think there's a couple squads in here, and I'm not going to name them because it's too early to say it, but there's couple things that feel a little off to me in their rosters, and I want to see how they actually do work together. There's a reason the coaches picked these guys, and then maybe they're seeing something that I'm not, but I feel a little off about a couple of the teams today, Rich.
Interesting. We might dig into that some more later. Of course, 2 matches coming up first, though. Tribe Gaming with the biggest roster movements of the offseason, some huge free agent signings, going up against Chivas Esports, which had a great run, mostly due to the insane performance of Anaban in the No Tilt League Special Edition. So can he carry again here, Andrew, against this Tribe Gaming roster?
Yeah, speaking of insane numbers, Tribe has it in spades, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Azelis, Buffmac, Jupiter King, and TNT. I'm sure you're very excited to talk about some of the numbers this team has. They're stellar on paper. Can they pull it off today on stage? And on the other side of it, the red team ready to go. Rich, who do we have, my friend? Well, actually, hold on. There's one thing I want to talk about today before we go to red. It's the 2v2 duo. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Azelis and Buffmac, but Jupiter and TNT, there's this language barrier between the two. I want to know who we're going to see today.
Very interesting possibility on the other side. Chivas Esports, and again, we talked about Anaban and what he has done in the past on ladder, but more importantly, what he did at this highest level in No Tilt League Special Edition, leading up to the CRL West 2020 Spring Split. This is actually a very inexperienced team, though, in CRL. The least experienced team overall. Just because of Adrian's 3 seasons and Pompeo's 1, they have 4 total seasons amongst them with 2 rookies on the squad. So will that inexperience be an issue here against a team like Tribe that has pretty middle-of-the-pack level experience in 9 combined seasons between their 4-man roster?
Yeah, you know, and Adrian's numbers really come from the very first season of CRL. So here we go. It's going to be Azelis and Buffmac coming out for Tribe, which was the expected duo. They're banning Tornado. On the other side of it, you have Pompeo and Adrian, who are banning Minor. Now, Adrian and Pompeo are not really the best 2v2 duo on paper. Now, Adrian has had very little success in 2v2. He played a couple games or a couple sets of it last season, and he went 0 for 4. Pompeo, on the other side of it, he's 5-7 in sets in his career in the 2v2 set. So a little better than Adrian, but I'm just not sure if this is going to be good enough for Chivas Esports moving through the entirety of CRL West 2020.
We'll see. I mean, again, the inexperience and sort of the strange experience in different directions. Let's go ahead and jump in to game number 1. Chivas Esports at the top of your screen, bottom of your screen, Tribe Gaming. And an unofficial poll I ran on Twitter a few minutes ago has Chivas Esports the favorites 52.2% to 47.8% voted by you guys there on Twitter. So let's see if you were right as we move into our first game of 2v2 between these 2 squads.
Yeah, a bit surprising there as you look at, Chivas being ranked 2 spots lower than Tribe in our power rankings, our unofficial power rankings. So we'll see, we'll see what happens here.
So solid damage to open things up for Tribe Gaming on the right-hand side. Of course, Buffmac has never really been primarily a 2v2 player. This has been a focus of Tribe Gaming in the offseason coming into this 2020 run. Azelis, though, after a rough first season in CRL EU, kind of reinvented himself over as part of Team Queso as a 2v2 player. And now, coming into this season, he has the top 2v2 career win rate at 71%. So the Frenchman seems to have found a pretty solid home in this first opening set.
I mean, the guy played out of his mind in the 2v2 set. We were all kind of shocked when we saw him shift over into it, but since then, I mean, last season, he didn't lose a 2v2 game. It was insane, or excuse me, yeah, last season in the fall, and then you go back to 2019 in the spring, and he went 11-4 in games and 5-2 in sets. The guy is an insane 2v2 player, and I'm hoping that he can elevate the play of Buffmac.
We'll see. I mean, Buffmac has primarily been a head-to-head player throughout his career. One of the top King of the Hill players overall. So, as you said, we'll see how their teamwork goes together right now. Balloon Heel Spirit, so taking sort of the Lumberloon Heel archetype from head-to-head play and bringing it into 2v2 is Chivas Esports. A lot of pieces, although to the final minute of regulation play.
Yeah, Buffmac and Azelis off to a really, really great start here with this bait deck with some pretty heavy hitters there. You got the Mega Knight, obviously, for the splash damage. You got the P.E.K.K.A there for the very high direct single target damage. And, of course, they're very, very tanky. So this is working out really well for them. They're doing a good job cycling the Goblin barrels, making sure they're getting the most out of their Skeleton barrels, making their opponents use their spells, the zaps coming out and getting no value.
Well, the hard part here is they only have one really excellent counter that we've seen so far to a Goblin Barrel, and that's the arrows. The other true counter, the other card that can kill those Goblin Barrels in one shot is the delivery, but that delay in 2v2 in particular makes it even harder to use. So this is going to be an interesting thing. We'll see if this on the left-hand side, can this balloon get in? Nope, not going to get it done. Azelis and Buffmac take game number 1 and take it easily to start off their 2020 season.
Yeah, it was a nice... all just to try to keep those goblins off the tower. And here you go, the stats. The reason why is you see the freeze spell. The freeze spell is the spell in there that, you know, sometimes is going to be your big spell. Maybe that's going to be another small spell to help out with these barrels. Best used as a surprise.
Yeah, this was tough, and you see, interesting, Lumberloon Heal typically doesn't run a free spell in head-to-head play. You understand the idea of putting it into a 2v2 deck, and this is not dissimilar to what we saw yesterday. Here we go, taking a look at some of the action from this last game, and this sort of shows the end that it was always, they were always caught between a rock and a hard place, only having one spell that's an excellent response to the Goblin Barrel. The zap, of course, is fine for the Skeleton Barrel, but that delivery with the delay, just hard to get the timing right. You see them trying to go for a super drop here, not enough. And this is the second time in a row now, Andrew. We saw this yesterday. I believe it was the opening deck from Cream, if I remember correctly, where they had because of the 16 card deck, they had a clone in there, and it never ended up being used effectively throughout the match. And similar thing here with this freeze. You see the creativity players are going for, the surprises they're trying to catch people with, but you know, that does raise some questions as to whether a more traditional choice, a less gotcha choice, might be more effective in some of these decks.
Yeah, you know, I'm not sure. I think a big part of it was probably just the bad matchup there. They just had no way to get to these cards. You couldn't keep up with the cycle. The delivery can't keep up with both Goblin Barrels. The zap can't keep up with both Skelly Barrels. So it's going to be a delivery and arrows every single time a Goblin Barrel comes down, but then you still only have one zap for the other. So it's really tough to pick and choose. And again, they are in the same house, so maybe the communication was lacking. I'm not sure, but I do believe it was just a lack.
Far, so we'll see if he can keep on adding to that here in as we jump into game number 2 against Chivas.
Well, he never lost the game in the fall, right? So he was 3-0 in sets, 6-0 in games. So now he's on a 7-0 game winning streak in 2v2. And, you know, obviously he was with Team Queso before and then Team Liquid before that, and now finding himself on Tribe. I think it's one of the more surprising things in all of CRL that we just don't talk about Azelis in 2v2 as much. Like, we talked about Faye a lot, and we talked about Azelis a little bit, but it's probably because of the lack of games and sets that he's played. But his performance, as you said, is the best.
Here we go, jumping into game number 2 of this best of 3 set. Of course, we talk often about how important the advantage of 2v2 is, but with Anaban in the wings for the opposing side, you got to wonder if maybe that advantage isn't as strong for Tribe Gaming as it might be for many other squads.
Yeah, you know, and you look at the other guys that are on Chivas that would come in, Anaban's the only answer, right? So then for Tribe, you're like, well, who matches up best against Anaban? Is it Jupiter King? Is it TNT? I mean, their numbers are pretty insane when it comes to 1v1, but the thing is that I think it's going to be Jupiter, even though we don't have a lot of notes on him when it comes to CRL specifically.
I mean, Jupiter King was phenomenal in No Tilt League Special Edition, kind of a coming out party for him there. So yeah, I'm expecting, you know, look, either way they go in 1v1 will end up being a great choice. TNT is has the #2 overall win rate throughout all sets career-wise among players in CRL West right now. Jupiter King had a 70% win rate in No Tilt League Special Edition and put up some amazing King of the Hill sweeps, some great 1v1s. So either one of those choices is phenomenal. And we know who's coming out for Chivas. Chivas is Anaban, and maybe that gives Tribe an advantage no matter how this opening set goes for 2v2.
Yeah, so getting back into the opening set and what's actually happening in this game, it's just going back into bait for the bottom of the screen. They're just running back the same thing, and why not? It worked so well the first time. Top of the screen, changing things up. 2 giant skeletons, duh, right?
That might be the best response. There we go.
It just feels like if they're not banned, you gotta play them.
E-Wiz, Log, Snowball, so maybe expecting to come back to something in this direction. We'll see if there are any other small spells in the hand for Pompeo and Adrian. With that Lumberjack dropping there, though, I have to imagine that might not be the case.
Yeah, you know, they eat a good amount of damage from the goblins there. Lumberjack not going to be the best response. The attack time is nice, but not a spell that's going to completely mitigate 100% of the damage. So I wonder if Azilius and Buffmac look at that and go, all right, let's turn up the pressure and see what else they have. What those other 5 cards are.
And notice that P.E.K.K.A placement on the giant skeleton, Andrew. That's only a viable P.E.K.K.A placement because Tornado is banned. If Tornado was available, putting the Tornado on that P.E.K.K.A, you can pull the giant skeleton. Unless the change to Tornado has made this not possible anymore, you can pull that giant skeleton using the P.E.K.K.A all the way to the tower for death damage. We've seen it in the past. So that's how important that Tornado ban is for that particular placement.
So bait still paying off this time, you know. Pompeo and Adrian just having a really, really difficult time getting any damage on the tower, getting any aggressive push coming in, and you're assuming that the balloon is probably in there when you see Giant Skeleton and Lumberjack, but you can also see, you know, Ram Riders are paired with them, Hog's been paired with them in the past, but what we do need is any sort of offense from Chivas right now.
And here we go, Hog to the right-hand side, Heal Spirit bats up high, Mega Knight in the counter, and this is the problem, is Chivas knows that there's a Mega Knight and P.E.K.K.A in this deck. They're trying to get them out of cycle. We'll see if this is the opportunity. They should have a second Hog most likely in this deck, and right now P.E.K.K.A and Mega Knight are both out of cycle, so let's see if they counter push here on the right-hand side as we go into the final 90, and there you go. Starting that Hog very, very low, an untraditional placement, but wanted to make sure it's behind that Lumberjack, and this Hog going full coast to coast does get one raged up shot. They need a lot more than that, though, to come back with just 60 seconds left.
One thing that I think is kind of interesting about this is going for the Hog Rider when it appears like, you know, they adjusted their decks clearly, and, you know, they can deal with log bait a lot better, but the Hog is the win condition. If they weren't expecting Azilius and Buff to run the same deck at all, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You talk about the P.E.K.K.A, you talk about the Mega Knight, making it really, really difficult to break through, but here's another push on the right.
Lumberjack distracting the Mega Knight. A freeze comes in, but no, the bats saved the day. Oh no, brutal here for Chivas Esports. They are holding on with 48 seconds left. They gotta make a few more come from behind moves.
Yeah, Larry gets hit on the top left. Poison comes down. That gap is getting wider and wider as the time is ticking down. Only 38 seconds left. Barrel comes in again. It's a tricky barrel or offset to the side.
A huge freeze.
Yeah, that's a big time freeze there, but still, 899 remaining, 669 on the top of your screen. Snowball comes in, but there's the Goblin Barrel late. A beautifully timed Goblin Barrel right after the spell comes in for the Skelly Barrel, and a very, very quick and easy 2-up, 2 down for Tribe, and Chivas is in trouble, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty dominant performance by Azilius and Buffmac running that bait deck back-to-back, and you gotta wonder if Chivas was what they were thinking in that second matchup, of course, with Mega Knight and P.E.K.K.A, both those responses, and still being kind of down one response for that double bait deck yet again.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so you look at that, when you look at that deck choice, and you're wondering, did they expect it to go a little different way, or what was the decision-making process there?
I just think maybe you swap out the Hogs for balloons, right? You could almost keep the entire same deck makeup. That way you're in the sky instead of on the ground. You know, your opponents are going to have a little bit more difficulty dealing with the balloon and a Hog just because they have more powerful ground responses. Would the balloon have broken through with the Musketeer and the Dark Goblin and the Princess and the Inferno Tower and all the other spells? I don't know, but I'm pretty dang sure that Hog was not the way to go against a Mega Knight P.E.K.K.A. Did they know they were going to run it again? No, but they did have more answers to bait, and they didn't have a great win condition.
Let's take a look at that replay, and this was the story of both games here, was not having enough responses to the bait. So, you know, you're talking about the Hog versus the P.E.K.K.A and Mega Knight. The freeze nearly made enough, but on the other half of it, not having the defensive spell responses to so many bait cards. And there's only, you know, you have 2 Skeleton Barrels, 2 Goblin Barrels. The ability to put pressure on it and repeatedly make we saw that at the end. Snowball has to come out for those skeleton barrel, but then the goblin barrel's right behind and you have nothing in response for that. So,
well, and the other thing too is you can never assist your offensive pushes with your spells, right? Because you always have to hold them for defense, and their offense, tribe, Azili's and Buffmax offense can be so cheap. It can literally be 3 or 6 elixir time after time after time, and it's very difficult to keep up with that in the cycle. And they just got overwhelmed, literally just completely overwhelmed in both of those games. I was definitely more impressed with the Hog in the second game. I was impressed they got as much damage in on that tower as they did. But that was a really, really uphill battle. What I do want to talk about a little bit now, though, is the matchups that we saw in the 2v2. 1v1 and matchups was a huge thing for Anaban in No Tilt. And you can maybe speak a little bit more accurately on this because you were there every single day. Do you think that's something that we can maybe look forward to and expect here at CRL?
I mean, matchups, it's certainly a bit of a game that you're playing. You have your analysts doing their research. In the end, it's about making the right call on the right day. Chivas Esports and Jose V, they did a great job with Mad Raider as well, making their choices in No Tilt League Special Edition, and it will be Jupiter King and Anaban. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But to finish answering your question, Chivas for Anaban ended up giving him the correct matchup about 60% of the time. It was really, really good in terms of their research and deck choices. It's hard to maintain that level of good deck picking throughout, but if they can give him an even closer, if you give Anaban a 55-45 advantage consistently throughout matchups, you start to get, you have a player who is so good mechanically with so many different decks, and we'll talk about that more as we jump into game number 1 here of our 1v1 set. Anaban top of your screen, Jupiter King at the bottom. And to continue that same thought, Anaban's a player who is not a one-trick, and instead he's mechanically really, really good with every single card. It makes him very versatile. And so part of that with how good Chivas is at analysis is you can really give him anything to play, and he can play it well. It gives their analysis team a lot of flexibility. And those two things combined are part of why Anaban was so successful in No Tilt.
And it makes it so incredibly difficult for your opponent to game or strategize against someone like that when they are as versatile as they are and when they can really lean into favorable matchups. So Jupiter King here at the bottom of your screen, Anaban at the top, two people that really, really had their coming out party with No Tilt and the things that Koji and Mondo are doing over there. And I'm very, very excited to see what both of them can do here in CRL. You've heard their names for years and years, especially Anaban when it comes to ladder. This is a big-time 1v1 matchup.
Yeah, I mean, both these rookies, but it's funny to say rookie with the experience level between the two of them overall. Jupiter King crush it at No Tilt, Anaban crush it at No Tilt, and of course Anaban known as the King Sniper on ladder, but yeah, he's certainly adding more to that reputation now with the way he's performing in the professional leagues. We'll see if he does more here, and it's looking like Anaban is just going straight Anaban here. Very, very interesting.
And I really like the Lumberjack up front to rage up the P.E.K.K.A, protect it from that Inferno Dragon. He gets the reset. Baby Dragon now distracting the Inferno, and then raged up Baby Dragon getting a couple belches in. Yes, Jupiter King ended up getting the best that he could out of that situation, but Anaban did a great job of taking his elixir advantage and turning up the heat.
So a pretty quick cycle graveyard deck for Jupiter King. Dark Prince and Inferno Dragon. You understand why the Inferno Dragon's in here up against Anaban. Anaban known very much for P.E.K.K.A Loon, and you see the P.E.K.K.A here, so we'll see what the rest of this looks like, but definitely happy to have that. Inferno Dragon is Jupiter King as we go into the final minute of regulation play. Double elixir time kicking off, and a second graveyard, just put a little pressure there on the back end.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see what other spells Anaban has here. There's the balloon coming out behind the P.E.K.K.A. I think we all were expecting it, but now it's going to be about getting that balloon to the tower. There's the freeze. Now finally turns around. Jupiter King's like, look, man, we all know you very, very well. He saves and holds the Goblin Cage, and that was some really, really nice defense from the tribe representative.
So fans of Anaban have to be going nuts right now. P.E.K.K.A Loon freeze in his very first game of CRL. Very interesting. Although with Snowball, the Cage to pull things around, and the Inferno Dragon, we'll see if Jupiter King can hold off against that combination. Puts down another graveyard in the back, keeping pressure on the opposite side. Poison for the Ice Wiz and a little bit on the tower as well. So right now it's Jupiter King with the lead as we go into sudden death overtime. 1175 right-hand side for the Chivas representative, and 1906 on that right-hand side, and a solid kite getting that rage up. Lumberjack away from the action, but it comes back due to the Dark Prince. Freeze up high right now. Anaban trying to get that P.E.K.K.A to go on tower. Might a balloon come around the back end once that Inferno Dragon goes down.
There's the balloon coming out. Archer's coming down to defend. Jupiter King really hanging on here still. I mean, this is the thing, is he's got such a great quick cycle, and he's all the answers that he pressure on the tower with the graveyard and then poison out units to defend.
Ice Golem kiting away on the P.E.K.K.A. This time, Jupiter King not going to make that same mistake. Tornado pulls it all together with the freeze. Baby Dragon trying to get some splash damage on tower, doesn't do it. Behind by a couple hundred HP is Anabam. Jupiter King putting pressure on the opposite side. There is a half-health P.E.K.K.A. going on the left-hand side, but this graveyard all over the tower on the right. 48 seconds left.
And he can just kite that P.E.K.K.A. around all day long, no problem. You get the tank coming down from the archers with the Ice Golem that is kiting the P.E.K.K.A. Freeze comes in again for Anaban, but he's already back around. He, being Jupiter King, to any tank that he needs. Archer's still alive in the back, and then an easy poison graveyard on top of that Princess Tower in the top right. And Anaban is now feeling the pressure, knowing that there's no way for him to stop these pushes. Jupiter King maybe was looking for that deck, and he put it to work.
There you go, Jupiter King taking game number 1. What an exciting game back and forth. You saw Anaban maybe expecting some of the moves that came on, but in the end, Jupiter King goes, yes, you expect this, but I have this cycle in perfect position to take care of those offensive pushes, and you saw Anaban trying to keep the pressure on. In the end, graveyard too much for him in this opening game. Jupiter King with an excellent debut, rookie versus rookie, 1-0 to 0-1 to kick off their Clash Royale League campaigns.
So these numbers here, if you take a look at the stats, and it's just varied by the numbers, just straight down the middle. Jupiter King had all the answers. His cycle was in the correct place. He did a great job of holding his snowball, holding his goblin cage, making sure those balloons never got dropped. So this is a moment here where we're seeing that P.E.K.K.A. just walked all the way to the left side of the map. Now she's going to walk all the way back.
P.E.K.K.A. Moon Freeze in Anaban's hands, so dangerous, is the way that he varies the freeze play. So you might think you're only going to freeze on the balloon, but freezing for the P.E.K.K.A., freezing to try to get Baby Dragon damage on there. The NATO freeze together, the way he plays that, but again, not big enough, not good enough in this situation to take down Jupiter King in their first game.
Well, the biggest thing here is that I think it's a big mistake by Anaban to run a deck that's as popular as it is and made as popular as it was by him specifically. When you're a pro and there's another pro out there that has a deck, like a deck that's known, by everyone, people learn how to play against it. And if you're expected to run that deck, and if you're the best in the world with that deck, maybe Jupiter wasn't like 100% sure, but why not run a deck that could counter it and do all the things that Jupiter King is good at, right? So, and that's exactly what happened. I don't love the decision here to run it. I think it's great for his fans. I think it's great for people that were looking for it. It's not ladder. This is CRL. And if you're going to run the deck that you get to the top of ladder on as your first deck in CRL that you made famous, that's what's going to happen to you, man. So I really hope he readjusts here in game number 2. I hope Chivas comes out with something completely different so that Jupiter King is thrown for a loop, as opposed to running a deck that you expect someone to run. That's how I feel about it.
I wouldn't have done it in match day 1. We saw him run it a few times in No Tilt League. Special Edition, had some good success with it. The big issue with someone who's known for a certain deck on ladder is the question of, do they run it in game 2 of a 1v1 set, right? That's the thing that a lot of the Mortar players do. They play something else game 1 and then play Mortar game 2. I wouldn't have run this at all in match week 1 and saved it either for a weird spot, maybe at most a weird spot in King of the Hill, or run it in week 2 if you were planning on running it. But on the same vein, it takes big moments to make a legend, and I respect the choice to a certain degree. If Anaban goes, hey, a lot of my fans are watching right now, let's go ahead and go big to open things up and try to make one of those legendary moments. It didn't pull off, so we'll see what he does here in game 2 against Jupiter King.
I mean, if it does work out, he looks like a genius. He looks like a god. He looks like the greatest ladder guy that moved into CRL and ran his deck. But here's the thing. It's CRL. It's not No Tilt. Is it the same level? Yes, they're all pros. They're all the best in the world. But for some reason here, it feels like it was just the wrong decision. I love the idea of busting out in week 3 or week 4, or maybe even the first week of playoffs if they make it there. Throw your opponent for like, wow, he finally did it. Not like, oh yeah, first game, first match, first opportunity. There it is. Let's counter it. So here we go.
You know, I am not super surprised, Andrew, to see 3M Royal Hogs as the deck pick for Jupiter King in game number 2. I have to admit, I am surprised to see 3 Musketeers played this early into the game and to this much success. Anaban, I guess, didn't have the right cards the way he wanted. He poisoned the 2 Musketeers, put a Baby Dragon on one side, but look at the damage here. So you open up, you cycle. You don't just open up, you cycle to 3 Musketeers to make them your first real play of the game. And you'd think this would be a total disaster for Jupiter King, ends up working out perfectly.
I mean, Jupiter King must know this deck in and out, right? He sees the 2 cards in his opening hand with the Ice Golem and the Heal Spirit, and he goes, all right, well, I know what the other 6 cards are. There's a pretty good opportunity I can get to a big offensive blow here if I want to sell all out. So what does he do? He cycles. There's the 3 Musketeers. There's the Royal Hogs. They're all in hand. He goes for it. And Anaban, clearly, you know, you see the Baby Dragon, you see the Barbs, and the Miner. You're like, all right, he's going to the skies. How can he recover now?
Yeah, this is going to be rough. 3 Musketeers against Lava Hound. We'll see how Anaban chooses to go through, and a Royal Delivery on top of it. Everything going wrong for Chivas Esports.
And
this
the Heal
is
Spirit.
looking very much like a 4-game sweep for Tribe to open things up.
Look at that beautiful Heal Spirit coming in on top of the Hunter, helping clean things up. That Musketeer is still alive, man. That is what I love to see, and that's what Jupiter King has done handedly in these 2 games. He's protecting the girls. He's protecting his incredibly high DPS ground units and the Musketeer and the Archers time and time again. And it's just beautiful plays here from Jupiter. I mean, Anaban is just caught looking straight up, and as he said, it couldn't go any worse for him when you see that Royal Delivery come in and then the Hunter. It's just bad news.
Yeah, we don't talk about the actual matchup that much, Andrew, but this is one of those 4-0 sweep to start off CRL 2020 for Tribe Gaming. High expectations met and leapt over Tribe Gaming. 4-0, clean, beautiful play, and got it done in match number 1. And this so far is the fastest we've seen it go here at CRL in 2020.
I mean, it's day 2, and that was straight up dominance. We have not seen that happen yet. That is a 4-game, 2-set sweep by your 4th seed here from our power rankings, doing exactly what they hoped to do, doing exactly what some thought they couldn't. And honestly, Tribe is one of the teams where I was wondering if something was a little bit off. I am so happy to say, and I'll say it right here on broadcast, I was very wrong, and I'm happy that I was wrong. This was so fun to watch. And here we go, Jupiter King running the Royal Hogs, 3M. We all know this deck. We've run into it before, but he played it brilliantly. I'm a little confused about the beginning. I feel like Anaban would have been able to defend a little bit better, but I think it was just a bad sequence of what he poisoned and what he decided and where he decided to drop his barbs. But, you know, 2 rookies coming out today, and, you know, welcome to CRL.
Yeah, here we go. The tower fall on the left-hand side going to be simple. And then the defense here on the right-hand side. You see just a single Musketeer. He split 2 to the left, 1 to the right, and you're going, okay, there's a pretty big push coming that side. Oh no, Royal Delivery, Hunter, 1, 2, and that was the end. That's it. There's no recovering from that. GG, well played, regroup for next week.
And he does
You talk about Golem opening play being insane, but 3M, essentially the opening play, you know, I'm wondering if he was like, look, I'm up 1 game. I think you're on Lava Hound from our research, and I'm just going to go ahead and open with this and believe I can defend. Other than that, I mean, who knows, man? That was absolutely insane. So there you have it. Tribe Gaming making it easy for us in the opening match of the day. One more coming at you. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Team Queso taking on Spacestation Gaming. Well, a very different start to today than we had yesterday. Yesterday, it was all upsets, close back and forths, and today we kick things off with the favorite going 1, 2, 3, 4, Jupiter King, not giving up a crown in that 1v1. Absolute insanity. Andrew, another very similar matchup coming up next. We have Team Queso, maybe the overall favorite coming into this thing, against Spacestation Gaming. What do you think's the key here for Spacestation to take out Team Queso?
I think the biggest thing for them is their 2v2. AC and RF are two guys that have kind of paved the way for 2v2 as a set. They started bringing out the new decks. They started changing up what the meta was when CRL started back in 2018. They stumbled a lot last season. They weren't the RF and AC of old. They weren't the team that we kind of expected to see out there. So I think what we need from them is that. We need just that. We need the 2v2 dominance once again. They got Lapo, RF's playing out of his mind. They added Basoto. So you've got a lot of really, really strong head-to-head players. And I always say, never sleep on AC, but they need to take these 2v2 sets. I said it with Immortals. I'm going to say it with SSG.
We'll see which pair shows up for SSG. Is it the AC and RF at top tier, or AC and RF not in quite form? We'll find out in a moment. Team Queso against Spacestation Gaming. Queso, coming off that huge win of the No Tilt League Special Edition, looked almost unbeatable. Spacestation Gaming, as I said the other day, the worst kept secret in Clash Royale, now here in CRL. Andrew, tell us about Team Queso.
Well, they finally got some hair to match their name. IMJP, the golden-haired golden boy, as you named him in 2018, is back in CRL West, and he's here with Team Queso. We also got Kuchiku and Benny, who have been there in their entire tenure, and of course, Ruben, the sophomore all-star. I mean, he had a big breakout season last year. Let's see what he can do now. I'm very, very excited to see what Team Queso can do. They are definitely the team that everyone is looking at that wasn't Liquid and SK. They're the number 3 seed overall. Let's see if they can back things up today against a massive SSG roster.
On the other side of it, Spacestation Gaming, one of the most long-standing duos in 2v2, Crap and the God RF. Lapacati, the consensus Rookie of the Year in the 2019 spring season, or Rookie of the Season, with a massive win rate, 71% that season. And then Samuel Basoto, one of the greatest ladder players of all time, with more than 30 finishes in the top 10, 4-time #1 on ladder, 8.7K, 87.21 personal best on ladder. Absolutely insane. But Andrew, as you said before, all the questions come down to this opening set, to this 2v2, who shows up.
Yeah, Benny and IMJP going to come out for Team Queso. They're banning Giant Skeleton. RF and AC, just as we expected, coming out for Spacestation Gaming with the ban of Tornado. I feel like those are probably the two best bans in 2v2 right now. I am really excited to see this combination of Benny and IMJP. I mean, Benny, who has been a guy that's been able to pop in and out of sets his entire career, but 2v2 is really a place that it kind of feels like that's been his best place to be, or at least for me. We'll see how IMJP does there, though. I haven't watched this guy in 2v2 in a long time.
Yeah, didn't play a lot of 2v2 in CRL EU back in the day, although did get some experience with his turn with kicks over in CRL Asia, so here we go. Game number 1, 2v2, AC and RF for Spacestation at the top of your screen, Benny Who and IMJP for Team Queso at the bottom, and this is a fast start. Miners both directions, split wall breakers twice now from Spacestation at the bridge.
And this is exactly the type of play you expect from AC and RF. It's high octane, high communication, and they're going out of the gates blazing right now. They're obviously going to slow down a little bit. You can't just keep doing that over and over here in 2v2, but I at least like the confidence I'm seeing from AC and RF.
Good catch there to open up. And for those of you keeping track of things on Twitter, Team Queso does have a full team house in Spain, all sitting together. And Spacestation was looking at all the teams that had players together and decided, let's go ahead and make it happen. So while they're not all together, the 2v2 duo, AC and RF, are in the God RF's place in Arizona. So they are sitting side by side for these games.
And I think that's really important when it comes to the 2v2. I don't think you have to be in the house if you're the 1v1 specialist, the head-to-head specialist, but getting your 2v2 players in the same room, it almost feels like a necessity at this point. If you're hearing about all the best teams doing it, you really don't want that disadvantage going into the game.
Here we go, passing the midway point of regulation time, and it is Spacestation Gaming ahead by a couple hundred HP on the right-hand side, although a decent counter push building up now for Team Queso.
Yeah, and the other big ban that I think that we'll see a lot of is the minor. It was the same thing we've seen it every single season. Every now and then there's just teams that just really don't want to face it in 2v2 because it's so difficult to keep up with the minor cycles coming in and out from both players, and of course, rotating where the minor is when Tornado's not in effect.
Dark Prince a little bit late this time, so now it's Team Queso taking the lead as we move into double elixir time by about 250 HP and some chip damage on the left-hand side from the Magic Archer, making things real dicey there for Team Queso.
It is pretty fascinating to see that these guys ran such similar decks here in game number 1, and we haven't really seen a lot of this in our 2v2 sets yet, but apparently both squads here went with the exact same idea, and we're very, very close here on our top right and bottom left towers.
We'll see if they can keep doing that on the right-hand side, Andrew. As you were talking, we might have seen, for some of you, a fireball coming out in response to those 2 elixir wall breakers on defense from Space Station and falling a little bit behind on elixir because of that. So we'll see if that has an effect as time goes forward. Here we are, final 20 seconds of regulation, and it still is the cheesy ones in the lead.
Yeah, and you can see that Crap and the God RF are here still going very aggressive in the left-hand lane, getting any damage where they can. But Queso still in that lead. IMJP and Benny Who playing very, very well right now against a very seasoned 2v2 duo.
Miner does not get caught, so the Mega Knight has to come out to prevent any more damage, although Team Queso has done a good job of getting some stuff back on that left-hand side. No geometry for this Magic Archer, so here we go. Sudden death, overtime. Ooh. And a good shot here for Space Station.
Would have been nice for them to be able to hit that log on top of the tower on the right-hand side. You saw them miss the poison Team Queso on the left because they're not really going for damage on that tower, but that log chip damage on the right that they just missed would have been nice.
Huge connection on the left-hand side with the wall breakers, temporarily gets the lead, and now the rocket takes it back for Queso, but here we go, Spacestation Gaming gets it done on the left-hand side.
The spell power coming out. It's always tough when that rocket comes out at the end of the game. You know they're only one more rocket away, essentially. They just need to get back around their cycle one more time, but the commitment of that 6 elixir to a tower, straight up damage. RF and AC saw an opening. They knew they were down a little bit in elixir. They went all in, and it paid off.
So there you go. AC and RF in good form here for game number 1. Fell behind early on, made some adjustments, and it was a pair of wall breakers that just there was nothing in cycle for Team Queso to stop it. AC and RF took the lead with that one, and at that point, it was just a race to see who could finish first. Here's the stats look courtesy of Stats Royale, and since the decks were pretty similar, most of it fairly even, except for you see that difference, the 6 elixir that rocket spent by Team Queso.
Yeah, and you look in the very bottom right-hand side of your screen there, you see the damage remaining on the Princess Towers for Crap and RF, and maybe Queso just split their damage a little bit too much. You got one probably at like 55%, the other one clearly below 20%. Maybe they just needed to even out where they were going to place their damage.
Here we go, taking a look at the final moments, I believe, and this is the wall breaker connection, so take a look. This pair of wall breakers sneaks through. There's no small spell. Bats can't stop it. So that doesn't only get tower damage, but kills any real potential of a counter push, and that was the big moment that started pushing things in the direction of Space Station.
Yeah, and there was just too much of a gap there at the end for Queso to make up in a little bit of time there, and you saw the spell power coming out for Space Station. They knew that it was right there. Fireball plus, easy take. I mean, Benny Who and IMJP put up a really, really great fight, and I thought that if they were playing up against any other 2v2 duo, that was maybe a win, but I'm very happy to see AC and RF looking like they were at the beginning of last year in the spring.
Yeah, they definitely were on the same page, and the ability to make mid-game adjustments and get back into it is absolutely key. And now Space Station, look, they have very talented but very young head-to-head players, whereas on the other side, you have a lot of competitive and professional experience. And it's hard to split the hairs here between Ruben and JP versus Basoto and Lapacati, but you just have to, it feels like in the competitive arena, you might give a bit of an advantage to Ruben and JP. So winning this 2v2 to give some cushion and confidence to their 2 young head-to-head stars feels like a big thing for Space Station.
Yeah, and it does feel like it's going to be the young head-to-head stars coming out. Basoto, as much as he's done incredible things online, we haven't quite see it translate to CRL yet. Lapo, on the other hand, we've seen him go very hot and not quite cold, but just not as hot as he has been before. I think it's probably going to be Lapo and Ruben in the second set for sophomores. So I think this set is really important for either squad because that other one is a coin toss to me. I could see either one of those guys taking the second set, the 1v1 set, on any given day.
Yeah, I mean, getting this thing locked down in 2v2 would be phenomenal for Space Station. Of course, Queso feels confident, as always, in a 3-set match, so we'll see what they can do here in game number 2. Benny Who and IMJP back out again. Let's jump into the action for our second game of 2v2. And again, RF and AC atop your screen. Benny Who and IMJP at the bottom. Space Station with a game in hand.
Yep, bans for your 2v2 set today is going to be Giant Skeleton by Team Queso. Spacestation Gaming taking Tornado off the board, which is why these miners are coming out, and they're very, very aggressive all over the place. Obviously, the one place you don't want to send it is the very inside tile closest to the King Tower, so it can't get snowballed. But otherwise, it's almost free reign.
AC and RF together share the number 2 spot in lifetime 2v2 wins, now at 49. One behind Razzer, who took sole possession of that leading spot in our games yesterday. So this duo has a ton of experience together, one of the most experienced duos overall. Lifetime win rate together of 55%.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe the biggest thing last season for Immortals, which obviously it's not the same as Space Station Gaming, but it's a very similar roster, they couldn't close their matches out. They couldn't close their sets out. They pick up a game, whether it was in game 1 or game 2, but for some reason they just couldn't close stuff out. That's why when you look at their records, they're basically just 50%. I mean, not even basically. If you look at the last season, spring and fall, they're exactly down the middle at 50% in games won and lost. And that's something that they just need to tip a little bit more in their favor by closing sets out.
Here we go, passing the midway point of regulation, and it is Lumberloon heal for Space Station. We'll see if, and they do have the freeze, much like we saw earlier today, and this raised up balloon does get a big connection.
A great last second heal spirit plus freeze to allow that balloon to connect and give Space Station a massive lead here in 2v2 with only 1 minute left. Honestly, I know they're going to still send in more balloons and try to keep up the pressure, but they can get there with minor and spell damage throughout. So maybe they start going pressure on the left, not sure. We'll see with this Musketeer working down the left-hand lane.
Bomb Tower Mega Knight set up on the right-hand side to respond to the Mega Knight Lumberjack of Team Queso, and Royal Giant behind. Let's see if this RG can work its way through. That's a huge lightning.
Yeah, that's a big lightning, but a great ice golem from Space Station to keep everything bunched up so that Mega Knight could leap on through and get the most effect out of him DPS-wise. We know that he's not the strongest hitter, but that splash damage is brutal, and that is going to be towered down easily by RF and AC.
You know, Andrew, we were talking about this deck, and the last time that we saw it in that in our previous match, and you know, really taking a look at that freeze and what world it played, and you talk about matchup differences, and against that big deck, the freeze wasn't very useful here, coming to perfect use.
Yeah, I mean, because you look at the balloon responses, right? It's the Royal Delivery and the Inferno Tower, but not much else there. And AC and RF doing exactly what you'd expect them to do maybe at the end of 2018. 2019 back and forth, but 2020 looking good already for Space Station Gaming in 2v2.
Big win to open things up, and now you give a nice cushion to your 2 young stars, whether it's Lapo or Basoto, coming into 1v1. Both of them have to feel a little bit less pressure facing off against Ruben, who's historically one of the hardest outs overall in all of Clash Royale League and of competitive Clash Royale consistently. And here we go, taking a look at the stats from Stats Royale, and this one very different than the first. Wasn't close at all. It was just pure dominance by the boys on the red side.
Yeah, and you know, even though Benny and IMJP had the double Royal Giant, they just were never able to kind of get it down in the rotation that you like. You know, when you have to deal with Royal Giant after Royal Giant after Royal Giant push, it becomes very, very overwhelming. But JP and Benny, who just not able to put that offense together and orchestrate it the way that they needed, it was kind of a walk in the park for AC and RF. It appeared here in game 2.
Yeah, as you said, it felt like Benny and JP were playing from behind the entire time, and you saw the one time they put together a Royal Giant push, they had Lightning available, but notice that JP's the one who had both the Lightning and the Heal Spirit. I don't remember what the exact Elixir count there was, but whether it was Cycle or Elixir count, he wasn't able to also help win that bridge battle with the Heal Spirit as well. And so you have this really great push that kind of died on the vine, and here we go, taking a look, and you see the Lightning comes in, and JP maybe a little bit low on Elixir.
Yeah, just not really able to support the push they'd like. And the other thing is selling out that much on offense and getting so little out of it. You see this huge counter push coming back in, and there's nothing there to stop it. Delivery is not coming down. Tower's frozen. Miner is completely healthy in the back. Mega Knight is still tanking for the balloon and the miner. All things going right for SSG, or wrong if you're a fan of Team Queso. So a very, very one-sided 2v2 set. I feel like 1v1 will probably be a little bit different, but you never know. Both these guys are incredible in the 1v1 set. They have very, very similar records. I feel like it's even in 2v2. Do you give an advantage to either squad? And actually, you know what? Let's just talk 1v1.
Yeah, in 1v1, and here we go. It's going to be Ruben and Lapacati. So the young Belarusian coming out. We'll see. We won't be seeing any swinging hips. Maybe he'll be doing it at home up against Ruben of Team Queso. Here we go. Game number 1. Space Station with the set advantage. We'll see if Ruben can even things up here against the former Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, these sophomores both coming out. Great records to back their name. 8-5 in his 1v1 game career is Lapacati. 4-2 in sets. On the other side of it, Ruben 7-3 in games, 3-1 in sets. So they do feel very, very evenly matched up here, and both of them just kind of hanging out right now.
Ruben does, with only one season, boast the top overall win rate in Clash Royale League West at 69% over the course of his career. And if you add in the numbers he put up in an SLO before joining into CRL, this man's record in competitive play is absolutely astounding. Many consider him to be, if not, of course, one of the top 3 or 5 players competitively in the world, possibly number 1. Lapacati does boast the top win rate in Space Station Gaming and 10th overall in King of the Hill, although his 1v1 has been fairly good. Haven't seen a ton of it. Only 6 sets played throughout his career, and part of that being that 1v1 was the 3rd and final set. And look at this graveyard push, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, this whole giant graveyard archetype is just devastating. I mean, we saw what Wings did with it yesterday, and no one had any response to it. Lapacati gets a high Mega Knight here and a low Magic Archer. Yes, the Magic Archer's played a little bit early, but he takes a ton of damage, but he's got a great counter push coming in. That's definitely going to be towered down.
And that's going to be towered down opposite direction, so Ruben taking full advantage. Lapacati getting very aggressive with the graveyard early, and as we go into the final minute of regulation, it's Lapa who has the work to do. And check this out, Andrew. No true big spell to chip away on that right-hand side. Yeah,
he still has to focus his energy on that right-hand side, which is going to be very, very frustrating for him as he goes into this 2-tower game, if he can get there. 396 is not an unsubstantial amount of health. He's got to commit at least a couple pushes there, and Ruben is not going to just let that happen. So here we see the first one. Dark Prince plus Graveyard. That's a 9 elixir push on the right. So what does Ruben do? Sacrifice the tower and opts to build his big push here on the left.
And a nice delivery turns the Prince away as well.
Yeah. Wow, this is a lot for Lapo to deal with. I have no idea how there's any way he can defend this.
The E-Wiz behind, the Piggy's super duper healthy. Arrow's trying to stop it, but now some Magic Archer might add a bit more chip on top. This is going to be a huge advantage, and remember, we are in a single tower situation, so when you're looking at these two decks, which one will play better when you're single tower at this stage? Well, Graveyard gets hurt a lot more by that King Cannon than Royal Hawks.
Yeah, 150%. And the other thing, too, is on that last push, there was just so much healthy unit from Ruben hanging out. I mean, that Bandit was completely untouched on the other side of the bridge for maybe 15 seconds.
Entering the final 90 seconds of play, and Lapacati does have the ability to put a lot of pressure on with that Graveyard, but has to save so much elixir on defense. The second he commits, it could be trouble, and here we go. Piggy's in. Goblin Cage not available to pick them up. This could be tower, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, there's the problem here, Rich, is that there's really no way for Lapo to truly go on offense, right? Because if he's going to go on offense, he has to commit 10 elixir that provides 0 defensive utility. 0. No counter push, nothing. It's a giant in a graveyard on your opponent's side of the map, essentially, and then you have to deal with the repercussions. And every single time Lapo committed fully on offense, Ruben sent things back to him tenfold.
And you have to wonder a little bit, Andrew, about that Opening push from Lapacati, the giant graveyard, 9 elixir that early, single elixir time. Yes, he got a ton of damage, but it didn't take the tower. He sacrificed a tower himself and then knew he was gonna have to spend, as you saw again, another 9 elixir. It was 10 elixir, sorry for that opening push, and another 9 has to come out on the back end.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're saying, right? It's 10 elixir that provided no utility other than just straight damage. So yes, the Mega Knight and the Magic Archer don't do the greatest job of cleaning up the skeletons and taking out the giant immediately, but then you have a Mega Knight Magic Archer plus Royal Hogs plus Earthquake coming back, and there's no way to deal with it. So I get being super aggressive early on and trying to get that tower damage, but that's not the way to win games. That's a way to get a big blow early on and then lose.
Yeah, that's one of those things where if that tower does fall, then we have a very different conversation, but the tower not falling makes it so hard. And then, as you said before, how do you defend the opposite direction? So really, really rough one here for Lapacati in that opening game. Maybe a bit of an overextension. Ruben taking full advantage. And here we go, Andrew, the final moments of that first game.
Yeah, you know, and you see it here, Ruben just doing what he needs to do. Just play some defense, don't overcommit too much, and then go heavy back on offense. And that bandit in the pocket, the dash is so great because not only does it take the King Tower away, but it dashes right on top of, I believe, the Ewiz there, taking one of the best defensive cards out of hand, or not Ewiz, excuse me, was it the Night Witch or the Musketeer? It's hard to see here, but it was one of those. Either way, 2 of the best utility defensive cards in Lapo's hand.
So we'll see what kind of adjustments Lapacati can make for game number 2. Of course, that first season in CRL West in the spring had a 72% win rate, down to a respectable, but nowhere near as dominant 55% in that fall season. Let's see if he can get one back here in game number 2 of our 1v1 set. Ruben with a chance to send us to King of the Hill.
Yeah, what I really want to see here in game 2 is I want to see Lapacati pump the brakes on such heavy hits. Now, I'm okay with opening with a miner at 7 elixir, I guess. That seems okay. But just the brakes. We don't need to see a giant graveyard as your first play, man.
And for a half second there, I was wondering, is Lapo going to go Mortar for game 2 yet again? But instead, minor wall breakers with a bit of control for the Spacestation Gaming player.
And that's one of the things that we've seen Lapo really excel at. It's very quick cycle, high, very precise interaction decks that he makes look very simple. I mean, that 4-spell deck that got really popular in GCs and ladder after he ran it at CRL, that deck was not easy to play, and he made it look so dominant and so easy. So seeing him go back to very quick cycle and control, I'm happy about.
Pressure staying on this left-hand side for Ruben. Lapacati trying to move in as quickly as he can, knowing that knows he can defend most of these and not take too much. A lot of players would have pulled the trigger and gotten much more aggressive earlier on, but Ruben is a very seasoned, very cerebral player, and so far just biding his time until we get to double.
Yeah, and in double elixir, Lapacati knows he did not get as much damage in on either tower that he'd like. He knows he's in a little bit of trouble. I wouldn't say that he's thinking like, oh man, how am I ever going to win this? But he knows he's in a little bit of trouble for sure.
Cage picked all that up fairly easily again. Lapo trying to keep that extra damage off the tower, and a nice pickup with the Valkyrie high. And here we go, miner to the back. Lapo spreading them thin, and there comes the NATO. Very late King Tower activation, but these wall breakers might go all the way.
Yes, they do, and there's the Golem coming down. You had to assume it was going to be the Golem. Looking at the cards that were already out there, now we've seen Golem run to varied success in the new meta. We'll see how Ruben busts it out here, but he's in a very good spot in the sense of having the NATO and the Bar Barrel to deal with those pushes on the right-hand side, so Lapo has to overcommit on these offenses.
Rocket will get the Baby Dragon off the board, do a lot to that Golem, and the Ice Wiz, NATO, and Valk all together, a lot of good defensive tools for Lapacati in this matchup. Just does not want to give that one big nasty push.
Yeah, so Miner gonna keep coming in here. There's a Lightning That's a little bit of trouble for Lapo, because now his defense has become a little bit harder here with his Ice Wiz and Princess Tower going to be pretty much always in the line of fire of that lightning if another golem push does come down.
And now a lot of expenditure and defensive tools out for Ruben. So you see Lapacati putting the pressure on that left-hand side. Will he drop wall breakers once that Goblin Brawler comes out? 2 Ice Wizzes, and now he pressures the right-hand lane as well.
And he has to keep it up. He really has to keep up the pressure, because the moment that Ruben makes a great positive elixir trade defensively or can eat a little bit of damage, as you're saying, min-maxing, he's going to get another golem down. So here we go. He finds himself in a good enough spot. He knows that his opponent can't put up too much damage right now. There's the NATO to pull everything back, and now we got a real golem push coming from Ruben on the left-hand side.
Yeah, the golem in front of King Tower to set up that entire situation that you saw, and a wall breaker connection on the right-hand side. A lot of damage for Lapo.
Yeah, big time damage. You know Ruben is going for the kill right now, but he has to be able to get that damage in on the tower, because he doesn't get the death damage from the golem, which is huge.
Final minute, triple elixir, and this is where Ruben would hope to be getting the advantage, but at this point he might be too far behind. This might be Rocket Cycle City for Lapacati, and now just has to play some defense, get back to another rocket. The pressure from Lapo was brilliant. The lightning was not able to make enough room for Ruben to break all the way through and take advantage. A nice mixture of minor wall breaker speed, control from Lapo, and he evens things up in game number 2.
And that is what Lapo is so good at, is that control. He's so good at keeping track of his own cycle, his opponent's cycle, knowing where his elixir's at, and defending incredibly efficiently. And that's what he did time and time again. Those incredible defenses, he split his units apart so that they could not all get lightning, and he was able to keep the pressure up on offense. Ruben was in the most difficult position to be in as a golem player, which is never having enough elixir to get a golem down and not sacrifice a tower at the same time.
Well, you saw near the end, Andrew, on the left-hand side where Ruben was putting most of his offense, a lightning come in just for a bomb tower and princess tower damage. And you know, you're sacrificing 2 elixir at that point, not actually getting the push all the way on the tower. And Lapacati did a good job of not just spreading stuff out, but he had able to stack troops where at many times he'd have 2 Valkyries down, 2 Ice Wizzes down. Really hard to contend with for Ruben.
Yeah, and then he did a great job of when and where to use his tornado and the bomb tower. And you talk about that lightning being able to hit bomb and princess only. It's because, again, splitting those units apart so you cannot take out the Ice Wiz. Because what do you do? Is it Princess Ice Wiz or is it Princess Bomb? Who knows? Either way, it's very difficult to break through. And then you throw in that tornado as an added layer of defense for Lapo. And, you know, Ruben just had no answers on offense. And then, again, being able to keep up the pressure the way that Lapo did, he never overcommitted. That was the thing, is there's definitely times in there where I would have found myself going, all right, now I have minor wall breakers, but then I would have not had that 3 elixir to tornado on defense.
And here we go.
And this is one of those moments.
Yep. Go ahead, Andrew.
I was just gonna say, this is one of those moments, you know, the 2 wall breakers come down on the right-hand side, he tornadoes on the left, he only had 5 elixir in hand. That's the absolute best way to defend that.
And there you go. You saw the first rocket come in, and all that Lapo had to do at this point, once he had this advantage, knowing that there was no way to really make it a big push, get through fast enough, get back to the second rocket, take care of business, end things. And now he goes into our 3rd game of 1v1 with a potential match point for Spacestation Gaming.
Yeah, you know, could be another 2-set sweep here. Obviously, a little bit more back and forth when it comes to this 1v1 set than what we saw in the first game, but Lapacati doing a great job playing incredibly patient and controlling game number 2. Let's get in to game 3.
Lapacati top of your screen, Ruben bottom of your screen. This one a little bit slower than we've seen in the past. It's been all fast and furious to open things up, Andrew, and now we might be doing the full 2-minute dance.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine the pressure is pretty through the roof for Ruben at the moment, whereas Lapacati, I know he wants to win this and close things out, but it's definitely not the same.
And Ruben getting aggro to open things up. 5 elixir at the bridge, Night Witch and Skelly's in response. We'll see if Lapo goes for a full-on counter push.
Yeah, we'll see. He's got a lot of elixir in hand. He decides not to, and opt to maybe drop something in the back. There it is, Flying Machine in the back. We see Flying Machine, we see Night Witch, Rich. Do you think we'll see a clone?
It's not impossible. It's certainly not impossible. You know, specifically I was messing around with a version of this in our off time the last couple of days, but we'll see if that's the direction it goes, and it would certainly be a big surprise at this moment in this meta.
Yeah, so definitely looking like maybe, I mean, maybe it is Lava Clone. I don't know.
Here we go, first minute 15 away, and it is Ruben with the only significant damage because of those Royal Hogs on the right-hand side.
Yep, and
If
Lavo
he's
here
going
playing
to the air, that Mega Knight's going to be an interesting dance to deal with.
Yeah, you know, obviously having the Magic Archer and the E-Wiz are going to really help if it is in the sky, but their damage, their single target damage is not super high, and it's very difficult to get through to that flying machine if you don't have a big spell.
And it might just be the EQ, and who knows if they have a small spell of some sort. So typically you don't see EQ and big spell together. The Magic Archer are going to help here, but even then that flying machine will get some damage on tower. Except for that.
Yep, so Royal Hogs have to come down. That's another 8 elixir expenditure there as you go into double elixir time. And this feels like a moment where Lapo could either let this die on the vine and then Lava Hound up in the back, maybe?
Delivery comes in, and so much value still from Delivery. Pushes back the Brawler, knocks back the Baby Dragon, and kites for the Baby Dragon.
Now,
So 3 elixir to counter.
I was just going to say, I think it's actually going to be Golem. And then there it is, because I was just like, it feels like he would have played his Lava Hound in that moment there, but instead he decides to Night Witch in the back, so we can't expect the Golem. I'm still thinking it's Clone, man.
Yeah, if it is, it'll be certainly exciting. Poison working on that left-hand side on the Magic Archer. Flying Machine completely untouched, so Ewiz has to come up high to clean that Flying Machine up, but that's still going to be a ton of damage on the right-hand side. And Snowball just slowing things down enough here to make some room on defense for Lapakati.
And I love the Snowball because not only did it slow stuff down, but it took out the only unit that could defend against the air, so that Baby Dragon becomes so much more effective against the Brawler, the Mega Knight, and of course the Royal Delivery.
Here we go, sudden death overtime. Golem, Night Witch, right-hand side. Mega Knight in response. Brawler will meet for the bridge battle.
The interesting thing about this
cycle when he wants it
is that Ruben is not ever trying to go opposite lane pressure. He's just fighting these bridge battles and then trying to get a counter push from each one. And I'm just curious to see if he's going to be able to keep this up long enough, because the Golem is still getting through. And now we're going to see that this tower is going to be basically even with Lapo's top right tower.
Bandit comes down as a kite to try to keep stuff off the tower, and it does. Mostly a little bit of splash damage there from the Baby Dragon, but then the Flying Machine connects.
That is big time. 668 Golem coming back down the lane, and I'm feeling like this could be a 2-set sweep, Rich. I don't know how Ruben's going to recover from this. He can't start going in the opposite lane now. He hasn't been doing it for too long, and now his tower is way too low.
Poison going to work on that. Ewiz in the back. Ruben down to only 4. Delivery does come out, but Delivery not going to do enough cleanup here. Flying Machine. Again, so hard to deal with. No real answer for Ruben for a second Flying Machine down. That's going to be a GG. Well played. Space Station Gaming makes it 2-2-0 sweeps on the day.
Wow, so your 4 and 5 seeds today climb up the rankings with some incredible plays on both sides, 2v2 and 1v1. If I'm Space Station Gaming, or Tribe, I am so happy and so proud of my team today. They played so incredibly well. Lapo came out hyper aggressive in game 1. He completely readjusted in games 2 and 3, and maybe it was even the decks that he played. Maybe it was the fact that he played Control and then played Golem that made him go, look, I need to pump the brakes here, and it really paid off.
Taking a look at the stats, courtesy of Stats Royale, and you can see not much given for Lapakati. Ruben went aggressive early, and you see what happened. It was Ruben went aggressive early, and Lapo said, okay, well, now you've committed yourself to this lane primarily, set up in that same lane, and made the battle there. And you commented on it, Andrew. Ruben was never able to switch the action, was never able to find enough elixir or a moment to take it to the left-hand side.
Yeah, and a big part of that was the way that Lapakati built his pushes. You know, if you watch Golem players talk a lot about playing on ladder and playing in challenges, like, they'll say a lot of times it's nicer to start the Golem push with the Night Witch in the back. That way you still have the opportunity and the ability to defend in the opposite lane, or Golem up in the front if they don't go hyper aggressive. And Ruben was never able to pull the trigger on the left-hand lane because Lapo didn't overcommit early on with his Golem. And then you saw this, he's just stuck in this horrible rinse and repeat cycle of taking damage, poison damage, Golem explosion damage, Golem chip damage, every single push.
And you commented on it, Andrew. There was really no answer for the Flying Machine. You know, we there was nothing that could deal with in the air, the delivery. You know, you have to save that for the stuff coming across the bridge, and you might be able to bump it, but it's not really a response to the Flying Machine. And we saw an Ewiz come in high, but consistently that was there in the back and made it almost impossible for Lapacati about those flying contraptions.
Yeah, and on the other side of it, Lapo did have the poison to take away the pesky Magic Archer, which is the other unit that you have a really difficult time getting to. And that's the thing about those cards, is if they stay on the board, you don't have a spell to get to them, they become the
down decks, whether it's Lava or Golem, and it plays different roles in both of those, both of them very, very effective, and in this case, very effective for Lapacati and Space Station Gaming. So, Andrew, let's go ahead and take a look at the standings at the end of our first match.
So here that's in Group A in that first place spot. But they're also tied with Tribe Gaming, 1-0, both of them having great starts. Chivas and Liquid in the third and fourth spot. Liquid in third, Chivas in fourth, both 0-1, and Dignitas, the only team in Group A that is yet to play. And of course, this is a very, very shocking start for Team Liquid.
Yeah, a big one for the defending world champions. Of course, such a short season. On the other side of it, in Group B, Misfits and Space Station as the top two, SK and Queso both at 0-1. I mean, if you predicted this, you must be from the future, Andrew. If anybody called what this first weekend would be like, and again, Pain Gaming, we'll see them next weekend, but a crazy start to CRL 2020.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I would have never expected SK, Queso, and Liquid to have all lost their opening matches. It's exactly what you expect out of CRL 2020, and just like you said, they only get 4 matches, so starting out 0-1, knowing you only have 3 more chances. If you're a team like, let's say like SK, right? A team that has done great time and time again, but has had trouble closing out their seasons and finishing on top up until just this last year. I worry about that when I think about SK. I worry about what this first stumble does to their confidence and their team morale moving forward.
Well, I mean, talking about confidence, Andrew, we have 4 teams that won their opening match. Of course, Space Station and Misfits, Cream Royale Betis, and Tribe Gaming. Who do you think is the biggest win for the opening?
I'll get back to that in just 1 second after we talk about these matches coming up next week. We're going to have Chivas Esports and Team Liquid going up against each other, looking for that very first victory on both sides. And then the second match of the day on Saturday is going to be Space Station Gaming, looking to stay perfect against SK, who we were just talking about. Then on Sunday, 10 a.m. in the West, 1 p.m. in the East, we got CRB going up against Dignitas for their very first match of the season. And then Misfits also going up against Pain Gaming, who will be playing their first match of the season on Sunday. What was your question again, Rich? Sorry.
My question is, of the 4 winners from this weekend, who do you think is the biggest winner? You know, we had Tribe, we had Cream, we had Misfits, we had Space Station. Who do you think deserves the most accolades or is in the best position after week 1?
Man, it's tough to say. It feels like it's probably somewhere between Cream and Space Station. We talked about Cream and how massively high their ceiling was, but be able to come out and perform the way that they did against Liquid was incredibly impressive. But then on the other side of it, people were expecting so much out of Team Queso, and Space Station getting that win is big time.
It's absolutely huge. And of course, our first match of next weekend is going to be leaving someone at an 0-2 record to start 2020, Andrew. That's absolutely wild to imagine we could be here, especially with it being either Liquid or Chivas in week 2. That's going to happen to one of them.
Yeah, so do not miss a second of the action, guys. You're watching us on YouTube, so hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. That way you get notifications every single time that we go live. And, you know, today was a very short day of matches. You don't want to miss the matches, so turn those notifications on. Also, you can follow us on Twitter, at Esports Royale EN, if you want to follow along in English. Lots of, actually not even lots of, just all the best up-to-date breaking Clash Royale competitive news in the world. Go there, follow us. And lastly, fantasy is done for the weekend. How did your team do? Remember, the trades don't open until Tuesday, and they're open from Tuesday until Friday. That's when you can trade and drop players throughout the week, but those rosters have to be set before we go live again next weekend. I don't know what to do about my roster, Rich. It did not perform the way that I thought it was going to.
Yeah, Andrew. I think that might be the case for everybody that team. I mean, there might be I'm curious to see who nailed this, who came out and got the perfect score for fantasy, because who are you, where are you from, and can I borrow your DeLorean?
Yeah, I know, because I think I have a total of like 6 points right now, but I'm feeling better for week 2, as I'm sure a lot of these teams are going to be doing. And of course, we are waiting for the CRL
in the Saturday and Sunday. Whoever you are, wherever you are, stay safe, stay happy, and we will see you next weekend.